here is Ezekiel Kralen's latest installment of his story about the two little dogs. This one's titled, He's a Fucking Idiot. Ezekiel Kralen wrote, email correspondence, July 8th, 2023. Subject, I had the dogs over last night. Continued. So I gathered up the poochies, and while lashing them to the signpost a foot away from the meter, they both greeted me with joyful adoration, Lucky squirming on his back in delight, while Flaco stood up on her hind legs to shower me with kisses from my crouched position. As I returned to Deke's spot by the corner to collect their unfinished repast and water bowl, I scowled at him. You fucking idiot! He didn't say a word, in fact, didn't look up at me even for a moment, but continued to fuss with his speaker. The dogs were not interested in the rest of their meal, so I brought it back upstairs to store in the fridge for later. But since workers were hammering and drilling in the gutted-out recess of the former ATM depot, right across from where the pups sat, I decided to walk them 2 blocks up Noe Street, so I untethered them from the post and escorted the Brindlekin toward the corner where I loudly addressed their master in passing. That was disgusting, abusing these darling creatures who care for you so much. If you loved them, you'd never dream of yanking their necks or leashing them to a wobbly bike. Again, he ignored me while futzing about. Deke had mentioned, just before the blow-up, that the mutts probably want to just rest since he walked them around most of the night. We relaxed for about half hour, beneath some trees across from Maury's shop, then ambled back to my building to gladly discover the noise had ceased. I brought down a large cardboard box for shade from the warming sunlight. See picture number 1. It was overall a really nice day, both weather-wise and people-wise, though by hour 4 I wondered if Deke were teaching me a lesson by his failure to show up yet, and Glob only knew when he finally would. He may have had such guilt over my righteous lambaste that he grew fearful to approach me now, but a little pterodactyl told me not to worry, just enjoy the day. However, I did obsess now and then over possible outcomes upon his reappearance, such as he would berate me for damaging the speaker and make additional false accusations to cover up his shame. He would really teach me a lesson by not returning till nightfall, or perhaps cause me grievous angst by waiting till sunrise. He would cuss and holler at me for whatever reason, just to fuck with my head. Be that as it may, I saw no option but to reiterate his egregious malice toward those innocent quadrupeds. In other words, he would not get me to back off or even soften my reprimand one iota. So here are 6 sweet moments that happened while sitting my beloved demi-dachshunds yesterday. 1. That soused lady who lives in my building and brings homemade meals to our local vagrants stepped outside with her equally plastered hubby and greeted me with a friendly, "Howdy there, how are things going today?" She offered me a large paper bag containing a full 3-course meal, a mason jar of spaghetti and cream sauce with mushrooms and broccoli, yuck, 6 fresh-baked cookies, and a grilled cheese sandwich. See picture 2. I thanked her kindly, said either my friend whose dogs I'm sitting might enjoy it once he returns, or I'll find someone else who's hungry, and whichever comes first. She said thank you, that would be great, then walked toward Castro Street with her partner. It was then I noticed under her skirt she wore a pair of white leotards with puppy Dalmatians scattered across both legs. 2. Barely 10 minutes later, this youngish vagrant dude who's been around for almost 10 years showed up and stood on the corner, wandering and looking about in circles. He placed his few possessions, jacket, blanket, and sweater perhaps, upon a bus-stop seat, then turned about and approached a straight couple sitting at one of Super Duper's outside tables and struck up what seemed to be a friendly conversation. A few minutes later, he left them and began to rummage through the trash bin, probably for anything edible. That is when I stood up, took the lunch bag by its handle, and offered it to him. Some nice woman who lives in my building likes to cook fresh meals for the homeless. She gave it to me, but I'm not hungry right now, so would you like it? He said, "Sure, thanks," and smiled at me from a face so handsome it could knock you over. He's of short stature, 5'5", I think, with crew-cut hair and dazzling gray eyes. I almost got mesmerized into his world, but snapped out of it, wished him a good day, and returned to my spot, where the mutts were sound asleep in blissful doggy dreamland. As I sat there, From a distance, watching him check out the bag's contents, I wondered if he'd even like the spaghetti slumgullion. Well, it's out of my hands now, I thought, then observed that he went straight for the cookies. To be continued.